A bonny city never slept. Its towering skyline was a testament to ambition and modernity, with the Skyline Plaza reigning as its crown jewel. Standing at 100 floors, it housed luxury apartments, corporate office, and upscale dining establishments. But amidst the building's glitz and glamour, a persistent rumor shadowed its reputation: the elevator. To most, it was a marvel of technology, fast, smooth, and always reliable. But to the night staff, it was something else entirely. They whispered about the 13th floor. A floor that didn't exist on the blueprints, yet appeared on the elevator panel in the dead of night. The building's management dismissed the stories as urban legends, but the staff knew better. Zara, a no-nonsense security guard in her late 20s, was skeptical. A former Marine, she prided herself on her rationality and resilience. "It's probably just a prank," she thought as her colleague Hassan nervously handed over the night shift log.
"Don't use the east elevator,"
Hassan said, avoiding her gaze.
"If it stops on 13, don't get out. Just wait."
"Are you serious?" Zara laughed. "There is no 13th floor." Hassan didn't respond, his face pale. With a sigh, Zara dismissed his warning and started her patrol. Midnight came and the building was eerily quiet, save from the hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional creak of the steel framework. As Zara made her way through the east wing, her walkie-talkie crackled.
"East elevator. Maintenance needed."
A garbled voice said. Frowning, she stepped into the elevator to check it out herself. The ride started normally. The panel lit up as the elevator climbed, each floor passing with a soft ding. Then, as it reached the 12th floor, the lights flickered and the elevator shuddered to a halt. "Great," Zara muttered, pressing the emergency button. Before she could radio for assistance, the panel lit up again. This time, it displayed 13. Her heart skipped a bit. Must be a glitch, she reasoned. But unease crept into her mind. The doors creaked open, revealing a dimly lit corridor. Cold air rushed in, carrying the faint scent of decay. The hallway stretched endlessly, lined with peeling wallpaper and flickering sconces. Zara stepped out cautiously, her flashlight cutting through the oppressive gloom. The floor felt wrong. The air was heavy, almost suffocating, as her footsteps echoed unnaturally, as though the space was larger than it seemed. A faint sobbing sound caught her attention. "Hello?" Zara called, her voice trembling. The sobbing stopped abruptly, replaced by a low, guttural whisper. It seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once.
"Turn back."
Her pulse quickened. She spun around, but the elevator doors were gone. In their place was a solid wall, stained with dark streaks. Panic set in as the whispers grew louder, overlapping and unintelligible. From the end of the hallway, a figure emerged. At first, it looked like a person, but as it drew closer, Zara realized it wasn't human. Its limbs were unnaturally long, its face featureless save for two glowing eyes. "Who's there?" she demanded, drawing her button. The figure stopped, tilting its head as if mocking her. Then, without warning, it charged. Zara swung her button, but it passed through the creature like smoke. She stumbled back, her flashlight flickering as the shadows around her seemed to come alive, reaching out with the tendrils of darkness. Zara bolted down the hallway, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Doors lined the corridor, but each one she tried was locked. The whispers became a deafening roar, drawing out her thoughts. Just as she felt the shadows closing in, she spotted the faint light ahead. A door stood ajar, and beyond it she saw the elevator. Summoning every ounce of courage, she sprinted toward it, the shadows clawing at her heels. She dove inside, slamming the close button repeatedly. As the door shut, she caught a glimpse of the figure's glowing eyes staring back at her, unblinking. The elevator jolted to life, descending rapidly. When it stopped, the doors opened to the lobby. The lobby was empty, the usual buzz of activity eerily absent. Zara stumbled out, her knees weak. She glanced at the elevator panel. There was no button for 13th floor. The next day, she tried to report the incident, but the manager dismissed her claims. There is no 13th floor. They repeated, their tone firm. Frustrated and shaken, Zara handed in her resignation. Weeks later, a new security guard replaced her. On his first night, Zara's warning replied in his mind, "If it is stopped on 13, don't get out." But curiosity got the better of him. The elevator doors opened to a dimly lit hallway, and the whispers began again. Crestview City was a bustling metropolis where time moved as fast as trains that roared through its extensive subway system. Millions of commuters relied on the subway to the sprawling city, yet amidst the chaos of daily life, there was one line that remained shrouded in mystery: Line 9. Officially, Line 9 had been decommissioned decades ago due to structural instability. But those who lived near its abandoned stations whispered of strange lights flickering in the darkness and the haunting sounds of the phantom train. These rumors fueled the curiosity of Maya Thompson, a rising investigative journalist known for her daring exposes. Maya wasn't one to back down from a challenge. When a tip about Line 9 landed on her desk, she saw it as her opportunity to cement her reputation. Armed with her camera, flashlight, and a notebook, she descended into the depths of Crestview's forgotten underground one fateful night. Maya entered the old Warren Street station, a once busy hub now reduced to crumbling ties and graffiti-covered walls. The air was damp and the faint smell of rust and decay lingered. The station's entrance was sealed off to public, but a loose maintenance panel provided her with access. As she descended the spiral staircase, the sound of the city above faded, replaced by an eerie silence. Her footsteps echoed ominously, and the beam of her flashlight danced across walls lined with peeling posters from another era. One caught her attention, a faded warning sign: "Do not enter Line 9, danger." She felt a shiver but pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. The tracks of Line 9 stretched into darkness, the faint glimmer of her flashlight barely illuminating the rusted rails. An hour passed as Maya explored the tunnel. Her camera captured every detail: the crowded infrastructure, the strange symbols etched into the walls, and the occasional sound of dripping water. But then, a low rumble reverberated through the tunnel. She froze. "It sounds like a train." "That's impossible," she whispered, gripping her flashlight tighter. The rumble grew louder, accompanied by a rush of wind that whipped her hair around her face. A train screeched into view, its headlights cutting through the darkness. It wasn't like the sleek, modern trains she was used to. This was one ancient, its exterior covered in rust and grime, with windows too clouded to see through. Against her better judgment, Maya stepped onto a platform as the train came to a stop. The door hissed open, revealing a dimly lit interior. An unnatural silence hung in the air and a chill ran down her spine. "Here goes nothing," she muttered, stepping abroad. The doors slammed shut behind her, making her jump. Inside, the train was filled with passengers, or what she thought were passengers. They sat motionless, their faces obscured by shadows despite the dim lighting. Maya moved cautiously down the aisle, her flashlight revealing more unsettling details. The seats were torn, and the floor was covered in the thin layer of what looked like ash. She called out, "Is anyone here?" but received no response. As she approached the front of the car, her flashlight flickered. One of the figures shifted slightly, its head turning toward her. For a moment, she thought she saw glowing eyes peering out from the darkness. The intercom crackled to life.
Next stop, nowhere.
A distorted voice announced, followed by an unsettling chuckle. Maya felt the train lurch forward, and the tunnel outside turned pitch black. Panic set in as she realized she had no idea where she was going or how to stop the train. Her heart raced as the intercom crackled again. This time the voice was clear.
Ticket, please.
It said. She turned to see a figure standing at the other end of the car. It wore the uniform of a conductor, but its face was skeletal, with a hollow eye sockets and a wide menacing grin. The figure began to move toward her, its steps slow but deliberate. Maya backed away, her flashlight shaking in her hands. "I don't have a ticket," she stammered.
No ticket,
The conductor rasped.
no escaped.
The passengers began to stare, their movement jerky and unnatural. One by one, they turned their heads toward her, their eyes glowing faintly. Maya bolted down the aisle, her flashlight casting a wide beam of light as she ran. The conductor's laugh echoed behind her, growing louder and more distorted. Reaching the end of the car, she found a door leading to the next. She yanked it open and stumbled through, only to find herself in the same car she had just left. The passengers were there, seated as before, their heads turning into a unison to watch her. "No, no, no," she cried, slamming the door shut behind her. She turned to find the conductor standing inches away, his bony hand reaching for her. She screamed and swung her flashlight, but it passed through him like smoke. Suddenly, the train screeched to a halt, throwing her to the floor. The doors opened, revealing a platform bathed in an unnatural red light. Without thinking, Maya scrambled out, her lungs burning as she ran. The train's horn blared behind her, and she was turning it. And when she turned, it was gone. The platform was empty, but the air was thick with whispers, each one repeating her name. She spotted a staircase and ran toward it, desperate to escape. As she ascended, the whispers grew louder, turning into screams. Rushing out of the subway, she collapsed onto the sidewalk, gasping for air. The city was alive around her, oblivious to the horrors she had just experienced. When she looked back, the entrance to Line 9 was gone. Maya returned home, shaken but alive. She reviewed the footage on her camera, hoping to find answers to her horror. The screen showed only static, punctuated by brief flashes of the skeletal conductor's grinning face. Her editor dismissed her story as fiction, and no one believed her, but Maya knew the truth. Line 9 was still out there, waiting for the next passenger, and sometimes, late at night, she still heard the faint rumble of a train that should no longer exist. In the heart of Bright View City, the Halcyon stood as a gleaming symbol of luxury and modernity. The towering apartment complex boasted pristine marble lobbies, state-of-the-art amenities, and panoramic views of the bustling city. Yet, amidst its opulence, apartment 712 carried a chilling reputation. Tenants whispered of strange occurrences, shadows that moved without cause, whispers echoing in the night, and mirrors that reflected more than they should. Most brushed off the rumors as urban legend, but Marcus Riley, a young architect who prided himself on logic and reason, dismissed the stories outright. When the opportunity to move into the building at a heavily discounted rate arose, he jumped at the chance. Marcus and his girlfriend Emma moved in on a crisp autumn evening. The apartment was immaculate, with polished hardwood floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, and sleek modern furniture left behind by the previous tenant. "This is perfect," Marcus said, sitting down on a box labeled books. Emma wasn't as enthusiastic. She had read about apartment 712's reputation online and felt an unshakable unease. It's just a place, Emma, Marcus reassured her. People love to exaggerate. That night, as they unpacked, Emma noticed something odd. The large mirror in the living room seemed to catch and hold her reflection for a moment too long. She shook her head, choking it up to exhaustion. At midnight, Marcus woke to the sound of faint whispers. At first, he thought it was the hum of the city outside, but as he listened, the whispers grew clear, forming disjointed phrases like,
Don't stay, get out.
He sat up, his heart pounding. The room was still and dark, save for the faint glow of the city lights outside. Emma stirred beside him. Did you hear that? He whispered. Hear what? She mumbled, half asleep. The whispers. Emma groaned. You are imagining things, go back to sleep. But Marcus shouldn't shake the feelings that they weren't alone. The following evening, as Emma unpacked in the bedroom, Marcus worked in the living room. His laptop sat on the coffee table, displaying blueprints for a new skyscraper project. Absorbed in his work, he didn't notice the subtle change in the room at first. The way the shadows seemed to ripple and stretch along the walls, or how the air grew colder. A sharp knock startled him. He looked around, expecting to see Emma, but she wasn't there. The knock came again, louder this time. It wasn't coming from the door, it was coming from the mirror. Slowly, Marcus approached the mirror, his breath visible in the now freezing air. His reflection stared back at him, but something was off. The reflection wasn't moving in sync with him. It smiled, a wide, unnatural grin, and raised a hand to wave. Marcus stumbled back, his heart racing. The reflection whispered,
We are watching.
Emma found him moments later. Pale and shaking. What happened? She asked. I don't know. Marcus stammered. Something's wrong with this place. Over the next few days, the occurrences escalated. Lights flickered without cause, objects moved on their own, and the whispers became more insistent. Emma began seeing movement out of the corner of her eye, shapes darting through the mirrors, always just out of focus. One night, while brushing her teeth, Emma leaned closer to the bathroom mirror to rinse. As she straightened, she saw a figure standing behind her. She spun around, but no one was there. Her reflection, however, didn't turn with her. It stayed still, its head tilted, watching her with cold, unblinking eye. Marcus! She screamed, running into the living room. What is it? He asked, pulling her into his arms. The mirrors, they are wrong. They are all wrong. Marcus wanted to dismiss her fears, but deep down he knew she was right. The apartment was alive and it was watching them. Determined to uncover the truth, Marcus began researching the building's history. He discovered that the Halcyon was built on the site of an old asylum, demolished decades ago after a series of mysterious deaths. The stories spoke of patients who claimed they were being watched by the walls, and by mirrors, and by something they couldn't see. It's the apartment, Marcus said, showing Emma the article. Whatever happened here, it is still here. That night, armed with a hammer and a sense of desperation, Marcus began to smashing the mirror. Each shatter released a chilling scream, as though something was being set free. But no matter how many mirrors he destroyed, the feeling of being watched didn't go away. At 3 a.m., the whispers became deafening, a chorus of voices filling the apartment. The shadows unified into shapes, tall, humanoid figures with glowing eyes that flickered like dying embers. Get out! Marcus shouted, but the figures didn't move, their form shifting and twisting unnaturally. Emma grabbed his hand. We have to leave now. They battled for the door, but it wouldn't budge. The wall seems to close in, the shadows wrapping around them like smoke. In a last-ditch effort, Marcus threw his hammer at the living room mirror, the largest one remaining. The mirror shattered and the apartment was plunged into the darkness. When they opened their eyes, they were standing outside the building, gasping for air. The lobby was empty, and apartment 712's windows were dark. The next day, Marcus and Emma returned with the police, determined to retrieve their belongings, but when they reached the 7th floor, the apartment was gone. The door to 712 led to a blank wall, as if the unit had never existed. They moved out of the halcyon that same day, leaving their possessions behind, but the feeling of being watched never left them, even in their new apartment. Marcus sometimes catch glimpses of the shadows darting through the mirrors, and at night the whispers followed them.
We are still watching.